good morning to Detroit and black and white viewers. We're here today, Saturday morning, ooh, Lord have mercy, I said April. August
Okay.
the 3rd. We're here at McShay's on the corner of Trumbull and Michigan Avenue. Um, if you are watching today, what we're going to ask that you do is we're going to ask that you like, subscribe, and share. You can catch us on all social media platforms, as well as podcasts, as well as you can find all of our previous shows on DetroitandBlackandWhite.com. Welcome, welcome, welcome. Good morning. Adolph is not here this morning, but the gang is here. Hello, Jim Nardone.
Good morning.
How are you?
I'm doing fine, thank you.
Former police chief of Trenton. And we also have the esteemed Allan, Trump lives in my head, Lengel.
Back it. Only I need an exterminator.
Right. Owner of Deadline Detroit, also a writer for the Washington Post. Good morning, Allan.
Good morning. Good morning. Good to be here. I look outside here, Michigan and Trumbull, which is we're at McShane's, such a legendary corner for so long. Listening to the Tiger baseball games, and Ernie Harwell go, "Good afternoon, everybody. Welcome to Tiger baseball." At the corner of Michigan and Trumbull. It's such a legendary corner here. And it's
and
fun
the revitalization of this neighborhood is phenomenal.
The train station, the new hotels, the corner, the development right on Tiger Stadium.
Right. So we're going to start off. If you guys want to do an outrage, or we just want to get into the conversation?
I think we should have an outrage.
Okay,
I want
to
to turn an outrage inside out, I guess.
Okay.
So Joe Biden and the Biden administration successfully extracted Evan Gershkovich and Paul Whelan from Russia here in the last few days. I sat up and watched it on TV, and if you're not emotional about that, you don't have a heartbeat. And my outrage is this is one of the most exciting things that have happened in many years. This may be the defining moment in Joe Biden's presidency, if you ask me. And I want to give Joe Biden and the Biden administration all the credit in the world. We are supplying Ukraine with weapons to fight Russia.
Right.
And they were able to pull this off. To say it's impressive is an understatement of the year. I mean, it's tremendous what they were able to pull off and get those people out of that country.
So, Jim and Allan, I do agree. And I don't know if you guys remember when the basketball player was brought home.
Right.
And Wayland's family was furious. They was like, why isn't he home? And actually, some people turned it political and said, there were some people who said, why did they bring the basketball player home and they didn't bring these other Americans home? It was just really, really nasty. And if you guys remember, President Biden said, don't worry, I'm working on it. He's going to come home. And so he stuck to his promise, and that is exactly what happened. And I agree with you that, it had to take some heck of a finagling to be able to get these three people home. Now, there's some other people that are there. I understand it's a school teacher.
On a marijuana possession, and it was a prescription marijuana that the person had gotten legally a prescription here, and they're detained. And his mother was upset and said, "Why wasn't he included?"
She's ticked off. Yeah. But just like the people who were that came home the other day, their family was pissed off last year when we had a basketball player come home. So the point that I'm trying to make is, look, I don't have a front end seat as to what kind of negotiations going on, but clearly you have to be a pretty savvy negotiator. And clearly it's a process, right?
It's a long
process. And so, listen, I can't tell you not to be emotional, but just believe that it's going to happen, that your kid is going to get back home.
It's hard. I saw, very close friends of mine, the Fensters, whose son, Danny Fenster, and he actually wrote something in Deadline Detroit about this release. And I saw what they went through, how distraught they were, like not knowing whether he was going to be safe or alive, because there was some talk about maybe trying to kill him. and they for 6 months, and all the stuff that was going on to try with the government and everybody trying to release them, and talking to other governments. And here you can imagine, they say there were 7 countries involved in this exchange, how complicated it was. And Germany did not really want to let go of this assassin who was Putin's guy.
Right.
And they finally said, okay, and they released the guy who killed somebody on their soil. These are tough exchanges all the time. You're releasing somebody who's a murderer for these innocent people. And we're talking about, 2 journalists and Paul Whelan,
Right.
who are, innocent people. And Russia is just, that they're detaining somebody who had a legal marijuana prescription. They're just using them as pawns. And for the family, it's so distressing. And when they see the joy of all these people and their person is still behind bars, it's hard. It's a difficult.
Well, I could tell you this. I don't worry. I won't be going to visit Russia.
Right. Why would
And
you?
and listen, I don't care what kind of job I may have. Listen, when you start telling me as a journalist, or you tell me I have to go over there as a spy, or whatever the case may be, listen, that's going to be the last day of my employment. I'm not doing it. It's just not
I'll
happening.
tell you what, if I were the travel bureau, promoting travel in those countries, I'd be like, hey, this is not good. We're not going to be getting a lot of Americans. Why would you go to countries like that? It's
Why would you take a job that requires you to do it? But go ahead, Jim.
But back with the outrageous part of it is the conservative press and the viewers calling it a political decision. This is not political at all. Why are we upset? Because the U.S. government spent years doing the right thing. When Bill Richardson passed, I thought Bill Richardson got a lot of people back to the United States, right? He was a very good negotiator.
He flew Danny Fenster back from Myanmar. They were on the plane together. He came in, and I think part of it, the Myanmar government didn't want to acquiesce to the U.S. government. So Bill Richardson had relations with Myanmar, and he was able to come in as sort of a third party and whisk him off. There was a lot going on behind the scenes outside of him, but he was also there to do, and we need people like that who are willing to get
Why
involved.
can't we be proud?
Right.
Why can't we be proud as U.S. citizens?
Well, we are.
Regardless of our
I
political
am.
position.
You are. Teresa is. We're very proud. And
I was
something to me-
teary-eyed watching. It was
Yeah,
so
it's
like
emotional. But United States prides itself on being humanitarians. This is a show of a humanitarian effort, absolutely, and taking care of home, bringing your own people home. So I think it's awesome. I'm glad that you brought that up. What is your outrage?
my outrage. It's interesting. I have a story. It's the top story in Deadline Detroit. We've seen these scams, and people have to really be careful who's on the internet, who's posing as what. There was a 17-year-old. This happened in 2022, but there's just more indictments coming out. A 17-year-old in Marquette, Michigan. There were these Nigerian guys posing as a young woman on Instagram, convinced the guy to send nude pictures of himself. And then they got the pictures, and then they extorted money from him and said, if you don't give us money. So he sent $300, and they were like, not enough. He killed himself.
Oh,
So the U.S., which I think maybe the first time, they went to Nigeria. They arrested 2 of the 3 guys involved. They're here in Michigan. They're going to be sentenced on September 5th or something like that. It's out of Marquette, Michigan. Now, yesterday they just indicted 5 people from Georgia and Alabama who were part of the whole thing. They had a cash app. So the Nigerians would direct people, and they extorted a lot of people beyond this kid. They had a cash app. They told him to deposit the money in this cash app. These guys would take 20% cut on it, forward it, use Bitcoin to pay one guy, and then this guy would forward it finally to the Nigerians, another Nigerian. And so people, we see that. I get stuff all the time. We have like these young, beautiful women who say, oh my God, I've watched your show. You seem so interesting. I would like to get to know you. I'm like, elite.
Wait a minute. They send you down your inbox.
No, they posted on
He's
Facebook.
getting picked on.
They post on Facebook, and I see sometimes friends who like friend them, and I'm like, no, they're probably not even women. They grab photos off the internet and pose as these women, and they have all these complimentary things said, and some guys are like, wow, this woman's so hot. I used to get, when I was at the Washington Post, I used to get these things.
Chose. I can't believe that.
At the Washington Post, I used to always get these Nigerian emails and say, oh my God, my father was the minister of oil. We have $18 million. We've got to move it out. I'm willing to give you $5 million. So I used to go, oh my God, this is such an amazing opportunity. Please call me ASAP. And I would give them the number 202-278-2000. And one guy writes me back, Mr. Lengel, how dare you give me the FBI number? And I write back, I go, how dare you try to scam me?
Oh my gosh.
It's like out there, and people have done it. You have calls, people say, I'm from the IRS, you owe money. Go to the store, get gift cards,
Right.
Read me the gift cards. Don't do it.
Right. I agree with that. That's funny that you should bring that up because two things. One, you guys are my friends on social media, Facebook, Gram, whatever. So everybody knows that I work out, right? And so I would post those. My trainer was posting them on her page. She was getting so much traction. I was like, and she was talking about how she can monetize it. So I said, hey, let me post it on my page. And I got all these weirdos in my DMing me and people with these crazy names and letters and stuff like that. It was just crazy trying to engage me. And I was like, oh my God. So if you guys have noticed, I don't post them anymore because I got sick and tired of it. But
It's
just like you said,
crazy
it's
out
a
there.
scam. You get those emails. I have you have money here. Please contact me so you can get this money. Get the heck out of here. But yeah, that is.
I have actually a really funny thing is that, a while ago, this is probably a few years ago, 2-3 years ago, we were always looking for money, investing money for Deadline Detroit. And I read Mackenzie Bezos had gotten a $38 billion settlement in her divorce, and she was giving out to, good causes. So I reached out on LinkedIn and said, hey, look, we have this publication in Detroit, blah, blah, blah. And so I get a response maybe 2-3 hours later. Hey, Allan, thanks for reaching out. Give me a proposal. So I thought, this sounds reasonable. So I write like a page, that day. And then the next day I get a response and says, Mr. Lengel, I am in receipt of your correspondence. I will get back to you. And I thought, she's a writer. She's like an author. It's a very, the writing is very stiff. And so I showed to one friend. He goes, well, I don't know, maybe her assistant is like, English isn't her first language. And I showed a friend of mine who'd done work for Deadline Detroit, is in DC. And he immediately goes, oh no, it's a scam. And so I said, maybe I'll do a story, maybe. So I get this thing and they say, okay, we can give money from the foundation, but you have to join. In order to join, you have to donate money. So I'm like, oh, really? I said, is $500 enough? Oh, yeah, sure. And so then after a while, I kind of lose interest. And they're like, Mr. Lengel, we're just checking in. I'm like, oh, I was going to give 100 just to kind of play along. And then I called the FBI, and the FBI is kind of numb. I said, look, there's somebody
they know you
posing.
on a first name basis, right?
Yeah, I said, there's somebody posing as Mackenzie Bezos, and they were so nonplussed by it. They're like, oh, we got a number for those scams, call that. And I'm like, yeah, look, if they don't give a shit. They were going back and forth, and finally they're like, Mr. Lengel, you came to us. Why are you ignoring us? And I finally go, look, you're scamming me. I said, I've already reached out to the FBI. Get the fuck out of here.
Somebody said, watch out for the scams on Amazon. One of our viewers.
Oh, yeah.
Said, so I have to make an admission. I have never, ever ordered anything off of Amazon.
Wow.
Nothing.
Good for you.
And I would say, what?
And living in Detroit, man.
Yes, I have never, ever, but let me tell you why. I'm so suspicious of ordering anything online because my identity has been compromised. Not once, not twice, not 3 times, but 4 times.
Wow.
And so I'm very apprehensive. But what I will do is, let me change this. I haven't directly ordered anything off of Amazon. I would get my sons and friends, hey, would you order this off of Amazon?
I do that too.
And they order it for me. But
Well, I'll tell you, the other scam is with Amazon or Best Buy or something like that, you'll get an email, and I've gotten these. The first time I thought maybe it was real. It says, you've ordered this Dell computer for $695.
Yeah, that's a common one.
You know, let us know if it's not you. So you call and they say, okay, you want a refund? Okay, they want you to put your credit card in. They want to go into a third party, get into your computer, and then they want to use your credit card. And so first I'm like, you know, I see what's going on. I go, wait a minute. I said, I'm not comfortable with this. They go, no, it's good. It's good. Don't worry about it. I go, no, I'm going to call Amazon. And the guy goes, I am Amazon.
Well, okay, we're going to cut to commercial, but I want to make a comment. Someone said, and watch out for the publishers clear.
I just want to know.
There's a million scams out
I
there.
just want to know if Allan gave up the best opportunity in his life, because someone called me and asked me if they would introduce Mackenzie Bezos to Allan. And apparently he's not interested. So
We're going to cut to commercial. We're going to come back with my outrage.
Neighborhood beautification. That's very important to Detroit. It's very important to block clubs, organizations, and people who live in the community. We got started with 2 lots and a vision of a treehouse center. Because if we can take these blighted lots, Detroit give us grants to be able to do something with them that the community wants, it's a plus, because we're bringing our neighborhoods back to where we want them to be, where they should be. All because I live in Detroit.
In the heart of Detroit, Bruce Simpson. Our city ombudsman and his team are dedicated to making your voice heard. The City of Detroit Ombudsman is a liaison between the City of Detroit and all persons who have a complaint or inquiry into the operation of a city department or the conduct of a city employee. The Ombudsman works as an independent oversight to provide individuals with an opportunity of giving a confidential avenue to address complaints. You can reach the Ombudsman's office at 313-224-6000 or email us at ombudsmandetroitmi.gov. You can also visit us at the Coleman A. Young Municipal Center. For more information, go to www.detroitmi.gov and type in Ombudsman. We are here to help. In Detroit, we are all one team. When you win, we all win.
This is Alyssa Slotkin, Democrat running for the U.S. Senate. I want to share a story about who, more than anyone, taught me the importance of listening and accountability. It was President Barack Obama. I served in the White House on his national security staff. I got to see him in action, up close, and behind closed doors in the Oval Office. First, he was brilliant, and therefore demanded people really knew their stuff. It was President Obama who grilled me on issues and demanded accountability on what we said and did. That commitment to accountability is exactly the approach I use today, listening to our communities. It's why I've written an opportunity agenda with detailed plans to strengthen Black businesses, increase Black wealth, and provide real opportunities for our youth. Because, as President Obama taught me, you better say what you mean and mean what you say. So that's why I approve this message.
Vote early or on August 6th for Alyssa Slotkin, Democrat for U.S. Senate. Paid for by Alyssa Slotkin.
All
And
right.
we're back, Detroit in black and white. Welcome to Detroit Black and White. If you're watching, like, subscribe, and share. Like, subscribe, and share. Find us on all platforms. We're here every Saturday on the corner of Michigan Avenue and Trumbull and Boucher. Listen, before I go to my outrage, I want to say this. Vanessa Moss, 36th District Court. This is a movement, folks. This is a movement. I'm asking everybody to go on my page, Vanessa Moss for 36th District Court, become an ambassador. What is an ambassador? It's someone that's representing what I stand for, okay?
And what is that? What do you stand for?
Listen, my platform is all about, this is not a regular campaign. I'm asking people to do something extraordinary, okay? Extraordinary. I'm asking them to step out of their box and write my name in because of the fact that I was thrown off the ballot. Secretary of State allowed this felon, convicted felon. Somebody decides, first of all, you have to know who hired him, and it was confirmed the other day.
Somebody hired him to do that?
He gets paid to do that. And I got thrown off the ballot. So if you think that because
Was it an opponent?
if you think because I am off the ballot that I'm not going to run, you have another story coming. You're going to own that seat. Who is Vanessa? What does Vanessa stand for? I stand for transparency matter, integrity matter. But more importantly, not only does legal experience matter, life experience matters. And so when you go on my page, you're going to see who and what Vanessa Moss is all about. So thank you. So let me segue into my outrage. My outrage is, you talked about Adolf earlier and that he's going to the Olympics, right?
Right.
Well, I'm really outraged that you have this transgender. And listen, I don't care who you identify as. I could care less, right? But you decide that you are going to identify as a woman, right? You put breasts, you may even get a vajayjay, I don't know, okay? But you've been wired, you were born wired as a man. You have the strength of a man. To have this boxer get in a ring with this woman and almost kill her, I think that is outrageous. Why are you looking at me like that? Because
No, because
I think it's outrageous. And so listen.
I've heard some other things that this person has some mixed chromosomes, which I don't know the whole story, so I can't speak with authority.
Listen, I think a couple of years ago they had someone that had mixed chromosomes, and they didn't even allow women to compete because even though I think she was born as a female, but she has mixed chromosomes, they didn't let her compete. But now you let this person who identifies, and again, I have no issue with how you identify. If you want to identify as a tree, a bear, although I do question people, it's like, how do you know what a bear does? I mean, how do you know what a bear thinks? How do you know what a cat thinks if you say you identify as I don't care if that's what you do, that's your business. However, I do think there's something to be said about what happened in the Olympics.
I'm uncomfortable with it because if you look at, I think she's born as a woman. She looks like a man, right? Your eyes are not lying to you. So that's where I have a challenge, but I think it's interesting. I'd like to know what the people out there think about it. She's been a woman her whole life. She's not transgender, right? She is a woman, but she sure looks like a man. And there's another example.
I think there's some mixed chromosomes or something going on there, but I'm not sure the whole story.
Yeah, so I mean, I was out yesterday and I went to go get my nails done. Y'all know I'm this girly girl. And they were talking about that, and you know, everybody was really upset about this. And then I watched the footage; it was very brutal. Now, I'm not a boxer. I used to like boxing, but as I got older, I feel like it's a bit brutal. But watching something like that, I'm sorry, it was terrible.
Speaking of boxing in general, I once went when I was at the Detroit News. I went with Mike O'Hara, a sports reporter who sometimes covers some boxing. And we went to the Palace and sat ringside with Jackie Callahan, who was one. And I'll tell you, when you see it on TV, it's one thing. When you see it in person, on TV it looks a little bit sanitized because it doesn't look quite real. But when you go in person and you see the punches landing, it looks like a real fight, and it's really violent when you see it in person.
Yes.
And I've seen it too, but that's where the question comes in. If it's a 100-yard dash and there's some question about who's competing, it's one thing. But you're talking about life and death sometimes in a boxing ring.
Right.
Somebody could die as a result.
Right. And it's just really, really sad. Just very brutal. I don't support it. Again, for those who's watching, I don't care how you identify yourself. It doesn't matter to me. But I do think that there needs to be a level playing field. I know there was some controversy over the last few years about children who identify a different sex and they're competing in different sports. And so I think that is a genuine concern. I don't think that people should turn a blind eye to it and say, oh well, you know, she says she's a boy, then she's a boy, and she should be able to play football. Okay, listen, you're not wired like a boy. You could cut your tatas off, you could get a strap on or do whatever else they do. But the bottom line is you still think like a woman. I can't tell you how to think. I can't tell you I'm a man, I think like a man. I don't know what goes on in your head. Yes, you do.
You do. Trump is here.
I'm just saying.
3/4 of his.
I'm just saying. So, but what you believe is what you believe, and so I'm not attacking that. It's just I just find it.
I mean, it's an interesting subject. I mean, it's certainly a subject worth a discussion. Like I say, in this particular person, I don't know all the facts on it, but
Right.
I think it's pretty obvious if you look at this human being that they have an unfair advantage in this match. I will just say that I don't care, and I think what you're trying to say, what I hear is you don't care what anybody identifies as. That's none of your business. But it could be your business. If we did in Walmart, if I went and I was fighting with a lady in Walmart,
Right.
I would end up in a jail cell.
But let me ask you this.
Absolutely.
But there's women who could be super strong, superior in strength to another woman. It happened, I mean, where do we?
But you're saying a woman born as a woman and a woman born as a woman.
I mean, look, there are guys who are like super strength, and they're the world champions. They're stronger than me. They beat the shit out of me. They beat the shit out of all of us.
So at any rate,
No, I'm just saying there's some.
She's lost 7 fights.
Okay.
So I think that's interesting too.
Yeah.
So she's been beat up. She's lost a boxing match against
Yeah,
a
so
woman.
that's
So
that.
I think
was
that's very
my comment.
interesting too.
So,
Interesting.
yeah,
So-
very interesting.
So we've got a couple of videos. Can we get to
It's
the?
Donald Trump time.
It's
No, we're not gonna spend a whole lot of
No,
time. on
we've
Donald
spent a
Trump, but
few
I am
minutes
gonna-
because I do want to.
Before you do that, though, I want
Yeah.
to talk about this article that I read. It's the co-chairman woman of the Black Journalist Convention. She stepped down after it was announced that Trump was coming.
Yeah.
Now, the problem with that is this: you're a journalist.
Right.
They invite both sides. What's your problem?
I
You're
think
not supposed to be biased. It's supposed to be straight down the. Now, whatever your convictions are and how you feel is your business. But you stepped down because this dude was invited to come in the house, and you said, "Well, they didn't tell me about it." Okay, you're the co-chair,
Yeah.
and they
Ellen,
have a
there's
history of
ego.
inviting both sides.
There's some
That's
ego.
crazy
I
to
agree
me.
with you. I mean, look, you know what? And we'll see a couple of videos of how they handle it, which is like they confront him about some of his behavior, which is really unacceptable, which is just racist.
Unacceptable to who? Listen,
people-
clearly
look,
there are people
unacceptable.
there are people who find his behavior acceptable. We even had a friend of mine
Yeah,
who's on this
if you got a hood
who
on.
is he's black.
Terry,
Terry,
I know who you're talking about.
he's black. He don't wear a hood unless he's wearing a hoodie. I mean, come on now, stop it. There are people that he appeals to. So, and people are really getting tired of saying, well, he's a racist. They was like, look, this is old and tired. We want to hear something new. But let's cut to your
Can
thing.
I ask a question first?
Yeah,
Go
go
ahead,
ahead.
Allan.
Yeah.
So, Allan, my question to you, and it's an honest question. I hope I got
That's
an
all I ask for, honest questions.
Are you
We don't want to lie.
looking at this whole interview process with this group as a journalist, or are you looking at it as I hate Donald Trump thing?
Oh, he can't decipher.
Well, both.
He
I mean,
can't decipher.
I think, look, as a journalist, kudos to the journalist who interviewed him, who asked him some tough questions, which he does not like. But it's like, I'm sorry, but the discourse that he has created in this country is so hateful. And I was going to say, he is having such a problem running against a black person. He is going to do every single thing from dog whistles to everything short of using the N-word to describe her because he can't help it. He's a racist. It's so visceral to him. So he's going to do everything. So you can see
So
they
I got a
confront
question.
him
I got a
about
question.
those. Yes.
Do you think that we've had people that has it previously sat in the seat and that they were not racist?
Look,
I'm asking you a question. That's a
you
yes
know
or
what?
no answer.
I'll tell you.
That's a yes or no answer.
Yeah, look, Richard
That's a
Nixon.
yes
I'll
or
tell you
no
a
answer.
video that
That's a
go
yes
on.
or no.
Yes, you
Okay,
go.
thank you.
No, but I want to give an
Thank you.
example. Richard Nixon. There's a tape. If you go on YouTube, him and Haldeman, one of his aides, they're talking. And Richard Nixon says, "You notice?" He goes, "The Jews are so sneaky. You got Rosenberg, Daniel Ellsberg." He goes, "You got Ellsberg," and then he goes. And then he says,
"You are sneaky."
And then he said, "Yeah." And then he says, "You notice?" And Nixon says to him, he goes, "You notice?" He goes, "There's no Negro like spies."
Oh, he used the. Okay, y'all
Yeah,
come on down here and
was-
jump on him.
this
Come
was
on
bad.
down here. He used the N word.
Yeah,
He
yeah.
used the N-word.
This is
Come
what
on down
I'm
here.
quoting
Beat him
them.
up.
And then Haldeman says, "Yeah, because they're not smart enough." I mean, you talk about racism. Look, if Trump
But he led the
had
country.
recorded like Lyndon Johnson and Kennedy and everybody recorded every phone call, we would have the most entertaining thing because he says out there publicly. Imagine what he's saying privately.
So do you think the current president is in that same category as far as a racist goes?
No. I mean, look, does he have one racist drop in him? I think everybody, you can find somebody at some
I don't know if we
moment.
want to go down this rabbit hole because
Yeah.
I was going to ask you what defines racism. But why don't we cut to
But
your
why
own tape?
don't we play a couple of these?
Here. Some of your own supporters, including Republicans on Capitol Hill, have labeled Vice President Kamala Harris, who is the first Black and Asian American woman to serve as vice president and be on a major party ticket, as a DEI hire. Is that acceptable language to you? And will you tell those Republicans and those supporters to stop it?
How do you define DEI? And she was always of Indian heritage, and she was only promoting Indian heritage. I didn't know she was Black until a number of years ago when she happened to turn Black, and now she wants to be known as Black. So I don't know, is she Indian or is she Black?
She has always
But you know
identified
what?
as a Black woman. She went to a historically Black college.
I respect either one, but she obviously doesn't.
There's first of all, she went to Howard University, a
I know
traditional.
white folks that went to Howard University.
Yeah, but
Okay.
it's a traditional Black. So she grew up in a Black neighborhood in Oakland, I think.
I know some white
she's-
people that grew up in Black,
She's
traditionally Black neighborhoods.
embraced both being Black and Indian.
And there's no issue with that.
and
But she also embraced calling the current president a racist.
Okay.
well, yeah, she made some remark about busing or something during the debate. Look, you know what? We can all be accused of whatever,
in
but
politics, I was told by an expert in politics, there's no permanent enemies. And clearly they were not. They became friends, buddies, besties, co-workers, or whatever. But let's get to this video.
and we have one more. Let's
Oh.
play it real quick.
Okay.
We have one up.
You have told 4 congresswomen of color who were American citizens to go back to where they came from. You have used words like animal and rabid to describe Black district attorneys. You've attacked Black journalists, calling them a loser, saying the questions that they ask are, quote, stupid and racist. You've had dinner with a white supremacist at your Mar-a-Lago resort. So my question, sir, now that you are asking Black supporters to vote for you, why should Black voters trust you after you have used language like that?
Well, first of all, I don't think I've ever been asked a question in such a horrible manner. First question. You don't even say, hello, how are you? Are you with ABC? Because I think they're a fake news network, a terrible network.
That's
Yeah.
hilarious.
Yeah.
One,
He's entertaining.
the first tape, the first that you showed, he said she turned Black. Now, does he mean that she went and sat in the sun and got a tan, or what? I'm like, I don't understand what you're saying here. And then with this, you just start with hello. Listen, you were announced when you got to the event. They said who this person is. That's welcoming you. Are you serious, dude? But let me say this. There are some Black people that are going to vote for him. They're going to
Absolutely.
vote him, and especially Black people that are in some of these super conservative churches, they're going to support him. I know people who look like me who are supporting him. I know people who, and we've seen people who said, listen, I support him. So showing this, I don't know how much damage it's going to do. The people who don't like him in the first place, they're just going to continue to dislike him. Those people who support him are going to continue to support him. That's what I think.
I agree with you. Look, the MAGA crowd, it doesn't matter what he says, what he does. There's no way. It's a religion. It's a cult to them. They don't care. He's their leader. It doesn't matter. But I think what it may appeal to is the soft Democrats, the independents who may say, I'm still not sure yet. And they see that and go, do we need this like toxic, dialogue in America? Do we need to move on? And I think people are getting tired of his bullshit. It's so toxic.
But this is the thing, though, Allan and Jim, that this kind of stuff goes on every day, all day, in boardrooms, in executive rooms, in corporations. This same kind of conversation. I think it would be disingenuous to think that these kind of conversations about people that don't look like these powerful people, whether you're poor, whether you're a female, whether you're black, whether you're Asian, those kind of conversations you have those conversations all the time, and you have policies built around these beliefs. So to say to me, if you running the Democratic Party as the head of the Democratic Party, if you're saying don't vote for this guy because I know you're not, I'm playing, but if you're saying that don't vote for this guy because he's a racist, I think you're going to get an epic fail on that.
Well, you know what? I've heard black people, and not a lot, but I've heard some say, I like him. We know where he's coming from. He's not a bullshitter. He may be racist, but at least he admits that he's racist. That he says what he thinks, unlike some of the other white people who may be fake and are not telling me to my face. Mm-hmm. It was interesting when I was at the Washington Post. There were a group of reporters who met with Ben Bradley, who had been the editor there. He was vice president at large, but he'd been the editor during Watergate. Mm-hmm. And Ben Bradley just wanted to talk to people who were covering crime. And so I talked to one of the black reporters who was in there, and I wouldn't call
talked to a black reporter.
I wouldn't say Ben Bradley was not. Ben Bradley wasn't a racist, but he did.
And he's sitting here talking to a black woman. Okay, go ahead.
No, but I was saying afterwards, a friend of mine who's black was in the meeting, and he
has a black friend.
And I said, what was going on there? And he said, some of the black reporters asked him, said, how come we don't have more black reporters here at the Post? And there are some. And he said, I hired a bunch of them, but
he hired a bunch of them.
I'm telling you what he said. Mm-hmm. He said, I hired a bunch of them, but I had to get rid of a lot of them. They weren't worth the shit. And I said to my friend, how do you feel about that? It's kind of racist. And he said, He said, you know what? He said,
you said it's kind of racist?
I could have said racist. Okay. I don't remember. So he said, you know what? He goes, I'm okay with that. He says, at least I know where he's coming from. I'm okay with that. He's just totally transparent. And so I think with Trump, the same thing where people say, fine, he talks trash and he talks all this shit, but so what? I'm not offended by stuff that he says about black people. And I like that he says what he's on his mind. And some people like that. They think he pretends to be fighting the man. He is the man.
Well,
just because he wears a baseball cap doesn't make him like the people. He's an elitist guy who poses as just fighting the man. He is the man.
Well, off of Vanessa's point, we go back and we're talking about Donald Trump and some of those things that she suggested look overtly racist. Okay. But in the 70s, she talks about the boardroom. What about the U.S. Senate in the 1970s? What has changed? And why do we give a free pass to the Democrats? Robert Byrd and Strom Thurmond and all these folks that the Democrats were involved in. I'm not I'm not questioning what he said is vile and it's not acceptable. But he's not the only one.
And that's how. But listen, that's how he feels. That's how.
How many years ago was that, though?
Wait a minute.
We're talking
Do
about.
you beat up on somebody because that's the way that they feel? If that's the way that they view the world, do you beat up on them because you don't think like
No,
them?
if
And
they're
we're all
yes,
individuals.
look, you know what? If you think differently than I, fine. And if you say some crazy shit, that's fine. But you're not going to represent. I'm not going to vote for you to represent me. That's the difference.
Okay.
So you're giving him a pass. Well, let me go back in our history. Did you went to Oak Park High School? Were there black kids at Oak Park High School?
Yes.
One.
Okay.
10%. It was 10%.
It
Adolf.
was one.
I went to school
It
with
was
Adolf.
one.
Did
It
your
was
parents
one.
think you were going to
10%.
school?
And he wanted to be his friend so badly, he gave him the cheat sheet.
I gave
for
him
a
the
test.
answers to the test. And
Okay.
Adolf was like, do I trust this white guy? And the answers were 50 questions, all true. And a teacher said, don't tell anyone because I'm using the
He
same
said, "No,
test.
I
I
want
walked by Adolf
this
in the
guy is
hall.
my black friend. That's
I
what he
said, all true. And Adolf said, and Adolf goes, do I trust this white boy? And so Adolf did 48 out of 50 true.
So I went to a place called Taylor Center High School.
Okay.
Yes.
And the Taylor School District had part of the Inkster School District.
All right.
Taylor School District had Inkster students in it, all right? And the majority of those kids were black kids.
Right.
We didn't think we were living in a racial jungle, and that was 1977. So why do we keep making excuses for people's behavior because they're 30 years older? People don't change their thoughts. The people that are racist when they're 20 years
I
old
think
are
Strom
racist when they're
Thurmond's
70.
dead.
I'm not
And so
talking
is
about
Burt,
Strom
Senator
Thurmond. You know I'm
Burt.
not talking about Strom
Right.
Thurmond. I'm talking about the people that they influence that are still in our government.
Right.
Like, I'm not
talking about the
clear.
current president. She could have asked the current president the exact same question she just asked Donald Trump, and he would have been just as guilty.
Donald Trump is saying these things all the time currently still, and
But
he
I don't
still
think
has
that's the
to
point that
look.
he's
People
making.
evolve. People learn. People evolve.
You're making
Right
excuses
here,
for him.
indeed.
You're making
Not
excuses
making
for him.
excuses.
So wait a minute. Let
Look,
me make sure I got
to
this
compare
right.
Biden to
Wait a minute,
Trump,
let me
sorry.
Wait, hold on. Let me make sure I got this right. Are you saying that the guy who formerly occupied the White House, that it was a setup?
I didn't say that at all.
Okay.
I'm suggesting to you that we're making Donald Trump this David Duke racial
He is
racist,
that.
and maybe he is, all right?
He is that.
But he's not the only one, all
I
right?
agree.
And I'm going to tell you right now, when
Oh,
He's not the only
so
one,
hey,
but he
you
was
say,
the
you
one
know
who was
what,
asking
Trump?
questions at that event.
So you say, you know what, Trump? You're not the only one. So go ahead. Who cares?
That's not what I'm
He's
suggesting.
running for president. He is the president. You
So
wanna
was
say-
the guy that said Barack Obama was a clean. So was that guy. That wasn't
What did he say?
1977.
When was
It's
it?
right here.
What? Go
It's
ahead.
what did he say
Let's hear it.
about Barack Obama being clean? And
Who said it? You talking about Joe?
that's what I'm talking about.
I know that's what you're talking about. He also said something that caught him on a mic, and he said that's the
I lost it, but
Well,
but
look,
that's
you know
the
what?
that's the
People,
one.
you know,
what?
it's one
People-
thing to
I
say
agree with you.
stupid
People can't
things.
keep up.
It's one thing to say stupid things where it's like, whoa, that was stupid of me to say. That was wrong. That was incorrect or whatever. This guy, there's no apologies for what he says, and he
Why
continues
should
to
he
say it.
apologize if that's how he feels?
Here's
We're gonna
the quote.
cut. Well, hold on 1 second. You're gonna come back and do your quote. We're gonna cut to a commercial. We're gonna do a break, and then we'll come back, and Jim, you'll do the quote.
Neighborhood beautification. That's very important to Detroit. It's very important to block clubs, organizations, and people who live in the community. We got started with 2 lots and a vision of a treehouse center. Because if we can take these blighted lots, Detroit give us grants to be able to do something with them that the community wants, it's a plus because we're bringing our neighborhoods back to where we want them to be, where they should be. All because I live in Detroit.
In the heart of Detroit, Bruce Simpson. Our city ombudsman and his team are dedicated to making your voice heard. The City of Detroit Ombudsman is a liaison between the City of Detroit and all persons who have a complaint or inquiry into the operation of a city department or the conduct of a city employee. The Ombudsman works as an independent oversight to provide individuals with an opportunity of giving a confidential avenue to address complaints. You can reach the Ombudsman's office at 313-224-6000 or email us at ombudsmandetroitmi.gov. You can also visit us at the Coleman A. Young Municipal Center. For more information, go to www.detroitmi.gov and type in Ombudsman. We are here to help. In Detroit, we are all one team. When you win, we all win.
This is Alyssa Slotkin, Democrat running for the U.S. Senate. I want to share a story about who, more than anyone, taught me the importance of listening and accountability. It was President Barack Obama. I served in the White House on his national security staff. I got to see him in action, up close, and behind closed doors in the Oval Office. First, he was brilliant, and therefore demanded people really knew their stuff. It was President Obama who grilled me on issues and demanded accountability on what we said and did. That commitment to accountability is exactly the approach I use today, listening to our communities. It's why I've written an opportunity agenda with detailed plans to strengthen Black businesses, increase Black wealth, and provide real opportunities for our youth. Because, as President Obama taught me, you better say what you mean and mean what you say. So that's why I approve this message.
Vote early or on August 6th for Alyssa Slotkin, Democrat for U.S. Senate. Paid for by Alyssa Slotkin.
Show up. Yeah, the cop did not show up.
We're back to Detroit Black and White. We're going to pick up with Jim giving this
Just a quick
quote.
quote.
Joe Biden.
Quick quote from Joe Biden, 2007, which wasn't 50 years ago. It says,
Good point.
Right, Calvin Williams.
Yeah.
Joe
Look,
Biden and Bill Clinton signed the 1990s, and I couldn't get the rest of it, but basically.
basically that Trump signed the First Step Act. I mean, you know what? Look, I was in Lansing Bureau of the Detroit News when Blanchard decided to expand prisons and start jailing more people with drugs and stuff like that. Didn't impact crime. Crime was the same. I think people have tried, and sometimes it ends up being misguided. I don't, I think people want something done about crime, and it ended up not being the right way to address it. So.
Terry says Donald J. Trump is white privilege on steroids, and most people are afraid to say that.
I'm not afraid to say that, Terry. You're absolutely correct. He is the rich guy, right? He's the rich guy in the room, Terry. And rich people are different than us. That's a fact. And we don't know how they manipulate the whole world with their money that we don't have.
Right.
So Terry's absolutely right. But I'm going to quote the now president says.
And when was this?
2007.
2007.
And I think everybody's heard this. If they haven't. I don't mean to bore anybody with it. I mean, you got the first mainstream African American who's articulate and bright and clean and a nice looking guy. I mean, that's a storybook, man. What is he thinking when he said that? Tell me what he was thinking.
You know what? I think he's a guy who didn't look. It's not the most offensive thing, but it is. People can see that as offensive.
It's not offensive. Wait, hold up. But we're about to look. I'm about to get up and box you. It is offensive.
Okay, I'm saying.
It's not the most.
Look,
he's
trying.
It's
ignorance.
It's
ignorance. He's trying to say a compliment, but he's being racist about his compliment.
Because that's how he feels in his heart. That's how he felt in his heart. Now, has he evolved? People will say that he has. But at the time that he made that statement, that's how he felt.
But you know what? To put him in the same category as Donald Trump is just. I'm just saying I mean, look, we all get it. That's the wrong thing to say, and I'm sure he got a lot of shit for it.
Should he keep quiet and not say anything? Not talk about how he feels? You not talk about how you feel, and you talk about your true feelings?
I'm just saying. I'm not saying it's not offensive, but Trump.
Let's go back.
Takes it up.
Let's go back to what Terry just said.
Yes.
I'm sorry. Go ahead. I'm sorry. I didn't mean to interrupt you.
Go ahead.
Back to what Terry said. He's lived in a bubble for 50 years, all right? The U.S. Senate, the vice presidency, and then, of course, he just made like $20 million in a couple of years, and then he became the president, right? He's lived in a bubble for 50 years. He doesn't know, and we should probably quit talking about Joe, just like Trump should quit talking about President Biden. But my point is, he's like an elite. Biden has lived like an elite over the last 50 years. He doesn't understand. He's
So-
not that close to the.
So, but do you think that he's surrounded himself with people once he became enlightened, if you will? He surrounded himself with people that are not of the elite. Is that a possibility? Could that have happened, occurred?
I don't know. You're with your perspective is who you're with and who you know and how you live, right? So going back to Terry's point is Donald Trump's been rich his whole life. He doesn't understand how common people live.
He doesn't want to understand either.
That may be true
He
too.
doesn't want to understand. So
I think it's
Joe Biden
it's
credit.
ironic that his core of not all, but some core of his MAGA, if you go to the rallies, those are people.
have you been to one of the rallies?
I have not.
We should go.
But yeah, but
Wear your hat.
right, wear
I'll wear a hoodie.
our MAGA hats.
I wear a
But
hoodie. We should go.
but I think that group of people are. I think he looks down on those people.
When you come back in town,
He's
I'm
not
coming.
hanging out.
I'm coming.
He's not hanging out with the guys who are driving the F-150s and going to the tractor pull and hanging out with Hulk Hogan. Those aren't his people.
What are you saying? Us common people are just not good enough? Or what?
No, I'm saying that he does not relate to them. I don't think he embraces them as people. He's not like, yeah, let's bring those people over and have a good time. We're gonna have a barbecue out in the backyard. That ain't him. He wears a suit with that fakakta little hat on. I mean, which is just so like, let him. He wants to wear a hat. Let him put on a pair of jeans or something. Let him do something to show that he's actually
No,
he's
his
actually
figure was
saying,
showing
I'm
jeans.
relating
He's
to you
not gonna wear
people.
that because his body was showing jeans, so he's not gonna do
He
that.
wears khakis on the golf
But
course.
listen, we're gonna pivot because we get down to the wire. As everybody knows, the primary is Tuesday. So, Allan, you sent out a text to all of us in this story about Hill Harper when we were on the show on Wednesday, and in my opinion, he was like, it is a foregone conclusion that Hill Harper is not going to prevail. I said, I'm not a crystal ball gazer, so I'm not going to say that.
Oh, really?
So
You don't?
listen,
You think he's got a shot?
Listen, and then what he does is to try to back up how what he feels. He sends us this story, this
I can't remember where
article
it's from.
about how Hill Harper, because his whole argument was that he doesn't even live here. Basically, saying he's a carpetbagger. So the article that you sent, it was about Hill Harper owning property in California, Seattle. The kid doesn't
Sending
go to
his
school
kid to
here.
Seattle
Yeah.
schools.
So-
I don't care.
Yeah.
How do you feel about that?
I love Hill Harper. I don't care. I told you this on Wednesday. I don't agree with everything he believes in. I think he's a little naive. I think Hill Harper had a good chance to become a U.S. Senator for the
You
state
said,
of
hey,
Michigan.
it's not Tuesday yet.
Had a good opportunity,
Oh.
and I think his handlers, can I say this? Took his money and didn't help him. And I'm frustrated with that because I like Hill Harper, and I would be
Don't
proud
get me wrong.
proud to be
I like
him.
Hill Harper too. I think he's a great guy. We've had him here.
He said that
He's
was
a
we
smart.
said.
He's a
That's
smart.
what he said.
Obviously, look, he's a very smart guy. He's touching all the bases. He's a businessman. He's a community activist. He worked for Obama. He went to law school. I mean, he's a smart guy. But I'm saying that there have been some people who have questioned. He's been here for 7 years. I don't know. I don't have any problem with voting for an outsider.
It's the establishment is going to decide who the next senator is in Michigan,
Look,
not the people.
Alyssa Slotkin's been anointed by the Democratic Party as the candidate for the Democratic Party, and that's all there is to it. And Hill Harper doesn't have the backing or the money.
I hope he beats her 10-1 in
We'll
Detroit.
see.
I hope he beats her 10-1 in Detroit and he gets enough votes to win the election.
So
That would
we'll see
thrill
what
me.
happens in the
excuse me.
We'll see what happens.
That
Yeah,
would
God
thrill me.
bless you.
I sneeze every time I have peppermint.
Well, why do you take it? Why do you keep
I don't know.
peppermint?
Because I like
Because you
peppermint.
want to sneeze?
Yeah. I want to
It's
show.
spread
I want
COVID.
to.
This spread COVID.
COVID is, it's actually on the rise.
I know.
Although next
I know.
month,
That's an interesting-
next month there will
That's an
be a
interesting
new
point right there.
COVID
What?
shot.
So, Kaylin
study on
Williams.
Let's talk
illegal
about that for
immigration
just a second.
against
Read
black
Barack
communities.
Obama's Civil Rights Commission study on what illegal immigration does to black communities. Oh, okay. That's pretty interesting. I'll have to check that out.
I'd be curious,
We
but
have
you
somebody
know,
that says Trump 47. So we have people
Marlon Holt.
who, you know, Marlon
Thank you
says
for your
Trump.
comment, Marlon Holt.
Thank you for watching.
what does that mean? That
Like,
Trump will
subscribe,
be our
and share.
47th
Yes.
president?
Well, that's he supports them. And there's
So
Karen.
Karen says she's leaning towards Elisa Slotkin.
Oh,
So
well, that's
again,
interesting.
you know, but again, she says she's leaning towards, which means she was thinking about Hill, and now she's leaning towards. That means she hasn't totally made up her mind.
They're
We'll
both
see what
good
happens.
And we
candidates.
respect
They're both
that.
good candidates. I mean, clearly, Alyssa Slotkin has more experience. She's been there since 2018, I believe. She's worked for the government, all that stuff. Hill Harper. I mean, look, he's an actor. He did work for the Obama administration. He's got a law degree from Harvard. I mean, he's a qualified guy. I mean, it's not like he's a, you know, and he's been here. He's a very personable guy. He's a very likable person. But I'm not saying he's a, you know, evil guy. I'm just saying Alyssa Slotkin has got the edge, and I would be shocked, and I'd be willing to bet anyone and give odds. I'll give 10 to 1 odds.
Let me
to
ask
anyone.
you this: in the primary, whoever wins on the D side and whoever wins on the R side, do you
Mike
think?
Rogers.
Okay, so that's who I want to talk about. So, what do you think his chances are?
Look, he's got a shot at it, but she's got the edge for right now in the polls. She's leading him in the polls in Michigan. I think he's fading. I think he's not. You know, it's interesting. He's not a Trump fan,
Right.
but he had to back Trump to get the primary nod. So he's endorsed Trump. Trump has endorsed him. He'll get it, but you know, we're going to see. This is going to be an interesting election because it'll, I mean, not only tell the future of the Republican Party, but also of Trump. If Trump loses and he loses Michigan, all his candidates who are endorsed, at some point, the Republican Party is going to cut him loose and say, this guy is a liability to us. He's loose. Look, 2018, 20, 22, every candidate he's back here in Michigan has lost.
But won't that be the case?
Except for John James. And John James, I think, was pretty soft in this last election in terms of his endorsement.
That race is going to be interesting as well.
Carl
James
Malinga.
And Carl Malinga.
Yeah.
That's going to be interesting. We got 3 more minutes.
Be
so
very
we're gonna
close.
we're going to try to.
The Belle Isle, I just want to say the Belle Isle Art Fair is today and tomorrow on Belle Isle. It's just a traditional art fair.
And I'm going to say that if you go, pay attention to the stop sign. Don't do what Allan did, which was blow the stop sign. It ended up with a ticket, but he was able to
Belle
get
Isle.
the ticket dismissed because of his privilege.
No,
I'm just
because the
playing.
police officer
I'm
did
just
not
playing.
show up.
Listen, I have to keep it
Yeah,
spicy.
the
Listen, because
police
if you
officer
listen-
did not show up, and therefore the ticket is dismissed. I've done that before. Did it in Washington D.C. It got dismissed, and the other time I
Always on
got
the defensive.
a ticket
You're always
dismissed
on
in
the
D.C.
defensive.
as the officer
That's
put the
good.
wrong date on the ticket. So
You sure get a lot of tickets.
he testifies.
Exactly.
There was a little sign that said no left-hand turns, like that big. A
People
cop
in
was
the
sitting
audience
there.
is dying. They're laughing.
And-
You get like,
Didn't sit, and I made the left-hand turn. The cop writes it out. I go to the hearing, and the cop says, Mr. Lengel was proceeding northbound on Wisconsin Avenue and made a legal left-hand turn. And the judge says, Mr. Lengel, what do you have to say? And I said, I'm not disputing the fact, but I said, I believe there's the wrong date on there. Sunday is July 24th, not the 23rd. Judge looks and goes, he's right, case dismissed. And the cop gives me the dirtiest look. He turns around to me and I go,
what you gonna do? I'm
Yeah.
313. What you
Right,
gonna do?
right.
What you gonna do?
Following up on the
Right.
Belle Isle, the Jazz on the River in
Oh,
Trenton
right.
this
Jazz
weekend.
on the
If you get a
River.
chance, go
Who do they have?
It's beautiful. Mesa.
Tomorrow, Mesa is the headliner. I'll be down there. The movement will be there. The ambassadors will be there. Vanessa Moss, the 36th District Court Judge. This is a movement. This is not a regular campaign. I'm asking people to do something extraordinary. when you go on my page, Vanessa Moss 36th District Court.com, you will see testimonials. If you want to become an ambassador is somebody who supports financially, someone who supports, maybe you can't give $5. Maybe you can give your time. Whatever the case may be, we want you to join the movement.
And Jim Leland tonight too. Jim Leland at Comerica Park, they're celebrating Jim Leland. They're raising his whatever, put his number.
I feel like Jim Leland is a coach. Him and Dan Campbell, they are like represent Detroit in I think in terms of being very down to earth, very gritty.
I love what his wife said. Did you see what his wife said? He asked his wife if ever in her wildest dreams she thought he would achieve all this stuff, and she said, "Honey, you're not in my wildest dreams."
So it's right. So this wraps. This is the end of Detroit in black and white. We'll see you on Wednesday. Thank you. Like, subscribe, and share, and have a wonderful weekend.